Hi, Tammy. How's it?
Hey, Sid, I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm fine on this interesting overcast day. And yeah, as usual, it's always a pleasure to have you on, especially for another interesting topic from failure to success. And before we get live, what were your thoughts on the topic? Because I was kind of wondering how you'd actually find this topic.
So it quite resonates with me. Everybody, most people know fear standing for false evidence appearing real, and
Mhm.
I use that in my day-to-day life. I've learned how to work around fear, and there's so many things that stop our progress. And I thought it was such an apt topic, and I'm glad you actually brought it up. Thank you for that, because there's so many people out there that don't actually live a fulfilled life because of fear. And most of the like the questions we'll go through today, strange enough, I'm reading the book Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I'm not promoting any books, but
Of course.
it teaches you about the psyche and about the mind works. And you get that inner voice, and he calls it the inner roommate, and that's your fear speaking. So, but we will unpack it as we go along.
Of course. So to get the ball rolling, Tammy, why do so many people fear failure, and how does that fear hold them back from reaching their potential?
So people fear failure because it's often tied to past experiences, past trauma, childhood trauma. It's tied to judgment, rejection, and also a sense of losing control or losing your
Mm.
self worth. And many of us grow up associating mistakes with shame and disappointment, rather than turning that around and using it as a learning experience. So the fear holds them back from keeping them in their comfort zone, and where they avoid risks, they avoid taking a step forward, and taking on opportunities. And they will not take up a challenge, even in a work environment. And they wouldn't see every challenge is there to aid you for your growth. But because of the fear holding people back, they don't know what's on the other side. So, in trying not to fail, they also prevent themselves from succeeding and discovering their true capabilities. That innate capability, like in the Hindu philosophy, it's called your vasanas. And a lot of
Oh.
people are born with these, like say you're a pianist, or you've got that in you. Maybe playing a musical instrument, but because of fear of being judged, or you don't want to be on a stage, you don't want to be in front of people, that fear holds you back, and you never fully realize your true potential.
Yeah, that's so true. How can someone emotionally process failure without letting it damage their self-worth or confidence?
So I would say start by separating what happened from who you are. I listen to a lot of the Vedantic talks with Swami A. Parthasati, and he says, if I had to give you an example, say if you want to go for a job, for a promotion, right? And you come to me and you say, Tammy, you know what, I want to go for this promotion. And I say, you are such a donkey, man. How can you even think about something like that? You look at yourself and you say, I don't have big ears. I don't have a tail. I'm not a donkey. So you try to separate yourself from that. And it's not easy. It is not
Mm.
easy. I will admit that. But you need to separate yourself from the situation and separate yourself from who you really are. And you ask yourself, am I that person? Uh, you know, am I braying? No, I'm not that person. You look at who you truly are. Allow yourself for disappointment, allow frustration to come, even embarrassment, but without suppressing it. The more you suppress those feelings due to fear, it bottles up and it shows up in dis-ease in the body. And I've seen it with so many of my clients as well. Rather acknowledge them and shift them into a reflective aspect where I encourage journaling a hell of a lot, and I say write down things that you truly want. What is it that's holding you back? And most of the time you would find out, you, the person that's looking in the mirror, looking back at you, that's the person that's holding you back, not anybody else. You, what you need to do is also reframe failure, and rather using it as judgment, to say, oh no, I can't do this, I can't do that. So in fields like psychology, this is often linked to the growth mindset and the belief that ability is developed through effort and learning. So know who you are, who's that innate self, and speak to yourself in a way that you would, like how you would care for somebody, care about
Mm.
somebody, care for somebody. Give yourself the self respect first. Self compassion, confidence builds the resilience. And don't give yourself harsh criticisms. It, over time, it erodes your confidence. So
Mm.
be positive with yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror. Tell yourself you are handsome, you are beautiful, you can do it, you're a go-getter. And that's where it's that shift. As I said, it is not something easy. With me going through a divorce, having being married to a narcissistic sociopath, where I was told I was fat, I had
Mm.
stretch marks, and you look at yourself in the mirror and you weigh up certain things, and here you have somebody that says to you in your work environment, say, oh wow, I love your ensemble today, you're so well put together. And then you think about, okay, there's one person bringing you down and there's 50 people bringing you up. How does it weigh up? Know your self worth. That's where it starts.
So I guess in a nutshell, this a person needs to have positive affirmations.
Yes, positive affirmations is huge. That's also something that I promote a lot, and I promote gratitude a lot. So be grateful for the simple, pleasures of life. Like you got up this morning. You had a warm bed to sleep on. You've got
Yeah.
clothing to wear. How many people, when in my estate where I live, as soon as there's load shedding, you hear there's so many people that say, oh, my oxygen tank needs to be plugged in, or I don't have a backup battery. You think about these people, and something as simple as breathing in fresh air, we take it so for granted. But we need to
Mm.
be grateful for these little things, and the more you're grateful, the more you will have to be grateful for.
I agree. All right, there's a comment here from Rishita. Hi, Tammy. They say failure is a stepping stone to success. I believe so. Accepting failure helps to discover and repair and move forward. How true is this?
Yes, thank you, Resh, for the question. That is 100%. Because when you accept fear, like I've been a Toastmaster for over 18 years. And
Wow.
when you're learning how, and in Toastmasters, you learn public speaking. And one of the things that they do there is called the sandwich effect of constructive criticism, where, so if you're delivering a speech now, and I'll say, Sid, your delivery was excellent. You articulate yourself well. And then I would say, your areas of improvement, watch your pauses. Your pregnant pauses are a little bit too long. Be aware of your fillers, like those kind of things. And then I would end off with, but you have done exceptionally well. I love your confidence. I love your stage presence. So you see, it's the good, the areas of improvement. We don't call it bad. The areas of improvement and the good. So it's not saying you did this, you not like that. You, so that's the sandwich effect. And if everybody can adopt that type of mentality when it comes to giving feedback, giving constructive criticism, the recipient actually takes it in a little bit better and sees that failure or that fear as a stepping stone, and they say, okay, now I know I need to do this, I need to do that, I will work on that. What you do, you go back to the drawing board and you say, right, this is what I need to do. Record yourself, do a speech, record yourself, listen to how, I said, I paused there for over 30 seconds, which I shouldn't do. So what you do with that, the three P's: practice, practice, and
Oh, practice.
that practice makes perfect. So
Mm,
practice your speech, practice what you do. As I said, record yourself, see where your faults are, see, and then you come back. You actually come back stronger, far better, far more resilient. And when you learn this type of method, I promise you, you come back and you're much more resilient. You take every adversity as a
mm,
stepping stone. Everything that is said to you in the negative, and as I mentioned, the book The Untethered Soul, where you see things as a third person. And what philosophy says is, you see yourself as a third person, have this drone effect, and say, okay, how could I have done this better? And you constantly improving yourself. Something that I was doing very often, constantly. Every Friday I would have a date with myself, get myself a cup of coffee or tea, and have a notebook, and I say, okay, what went well for me in the week? What didn't go so well for me in the week? I had a meeting, but I wasn't prepared. I didn't have my answers. I didn't have my solid questions as to what I was going to ask the person, and it cost me time. So what am I going to do in the future? Proper planning, know time management, know how long, ask questions, question everything. And this is how you break away from that fear aspect to learning constantly and improving constantly. So your aim is to become a better version of yourself every week. So, as I said to you, I used to sit down, have a date with myself, see what worked for me, what didn't work. What didn't work, go back to the drawing board and say, okay, I spent, and I've done this, I spent the one day, I spent 1 hour and 45 minutes just scrolling on my phone, randomly scrolling on my phone. And before I knew it, it was almost 2 hours gone. It was 2 hours of wasted time. So, what I do is I limit my screen time, especially on my phone, because that can take up so much of your time. And then you say, is my time worth it? How much
mm,
is my time worth? Scrolling the phone and not getting anything from it, not improving. If I'm scrolling for a recipe, if I'm scrolling for a nice tip, or listening to a podcast of value, then it's
mm.
different. But if I'm just randomly scrolling and not learning from anything from that, think about how you structure your day, how you structure your time, and start appreciating yourself more, that you are valuable, your time is valuable, and you will see how your life changes.
That's so true. In your experience, but what is the biggest mindset shift needed to start seeing failure as a form of growth?
So, for me, the biggest shift is moving from failure. Failure means something about me. It's me. Take away that
Hmm.
labeling. And to a fear is information. Fear is my growth. It's for me. It's teaching me. It's taking me to the next version of myself to better myself. When failure feels personal, then it threatens your identity. A lot of
Hmm.
people, they want to backtrack, go into the shadows, and they try to avoid it totally. So if you take two people, right, and you take the one person and you say, "Ah, you failed." You failed. they're delivering a project or delivering a speech or whatever, you failed. So the one person will say, "Ah, I knew I wasn't cut out for this." And what they would do, they would not deliver a project again, they would not deliver a speech again, and they would retreat into the shadows. Whereas the other one would say, "Can you tell me where I faltered? Can you tell me my downfalls?" As I mentioned, ask questions, because this is building up your character. It's building up your resilience to approach fear much more differently. So see it as useful data, and no longer as that victim mentality. Ask for feedback, look at what worked, what didn't work, what needs adjusting, and align yourself through with your ideas, your growth, your mindset. And take it from watch YouTube podcasts. There's so many YouTube videos that help
That's
you
true.
and give you that ability to fix things, and to fix. And I tell some people say, "Oh, I'm so broken, I need to be fixed." You are not broken. Nobody is broken. This is where you need to divorce yourself from the situation and see, even in a work situation where you have, okay, I'm an empath. And in a work situation, you see a lot of people say, "My job, my this, my." Take away the labeling and see it as you performing the task. And it's something totally, totally different. I don't have the book here, but I'm reading another book, the Governing Business and Relationships. That's why by
Okay.
Swami Parthasati, and that teaches you as well how you perform the function, but that sometimes it's not you. It's not your innate trueness of you are there performing the function. When you get home, you are a family man, you somebody else. So you need to
Mm.
leave the work situation at work and separate the two. And once you make that shift, failure stops being something of fear and starts
Mm.
becoming more of the process of your growth.
Mm. So I guess failure should be taken as a learning curve, not as a thing that wears someone down kind of thing.
Correct.
Okay, awesome. Can past failures create subconscious blocks, and how can someone begin to overcome them?
So, referring back to the book again, The Untethered Soul,
Okay.
Michael Singer explains past experiences, especially painful ones like failure, like where it gets stored in mental and emotional impressions. These don't just disappear overnight; they sit within us for a long time, and they can quietly shape our reactions, create that subconscious blocks that we have. And sometimes a lot of the people, I know for me as well, a lot of things that happen in my previous marriage, I lay it dormant because I didn't. It was like opening up, rubbing salt on the wounds, as they say. So there was a lot that I left in the past, and the mind is so brilliant that the mind
Mm.
can actually block off a lot of these things. So yes, past failure can create these blocks, but
Mm.
not because of failure itself. It's because
Mm.
of the meaning that we attach to it and the emotions that we hold on to when we faced with that failure. So over time we start to act from those stored fears and avoiding risks, avoiding where we doubt ourselves or we hold back. And the approach to overcoming the simple, it's not simple.
Mm.
It's and it's not easy. I would say it's not
Mm.
simple. It's not easy because we become aware of the voice in your mind, and we stop identifying with it. So if there's like a task that I can give to the viewers, when you have that negative mindset, become aware of it and say, "Hang on, who is this roommate?"
Yes.
Evict them, evict them, and know. I'm not allowing them to take over, give that fear, give that negativity onto me. I'm not allowing them to portray that and come forward with that. I need to see this, as I said, as the drone effect and how I'm going to take this situation forward. So it's the whole idea of practicing of letting go, allowing those stored emotions to just pass through you without resisting them or suppressing them, so the more you release, the less power you give to those past failures, and you don't let them judge your present choices, which is it's so essential, but it comes with practice. So in essence, the shift of being controlled by your past to witnessing without being defined by it, that's where real freedom comes in. Real freedom, real growth starts.
Is that also possible? I've heard of this saying where a person laughs at adversity, but more in a positive sense. Would that be a nice way of putting it? Where a person should be laughing at adversity, but in a positive kind of sense.
Yes, so there are some. I know there's it's like a practice of yoga where they have the laughing therapy, where people listen, look at the things, and this is, remember, a lot of people, you don't know that you don't know, right? A lot of people handle certain situations very differently.
Mm,
So the one saying I know with my Angelo, she says you can tell a lot by a person. You give a person a bunch of tangled Christmas lights. How would one person do it, and how would the other person do it? One person will just chuck it in the bin and say, "Let me go and buy a new one," where the other one will sit very calmly and untangle each
mm.
light. And before you know it, an hour gone by, and they're done. So that tells you a lot of the personality and how people digest or how people handle a situation. So people cannot handle certain situations, so you look for external therapies where they laugh through certain things. They say, "Oh, this is going to be a walk in the park." We spoke about affirmations as well. When you're given a task, now, if I tell you, Sid, you've never been in a kitchen before, you've never fried an egg before, then I tell you, Sid, I want you to make me a 3-tier red velvet cake with buttercream icing and pink and white roses with fondant. And then you're going to say, the one part would say, "Man, I've never been in a kitchen before. I don't even know what a whisk is." Where the other one says, "Technology. I'm going to go out and I'm going to give this a try." And just for you can buy everything and start it step by step, you do the whole process, you get everything sorted out. Yes, it's not the perfect cake that you would get from a bakery, but the fact is you tried. And from there you say, if I could do that, and you step back and you look at this 3-tier tower of a cake and you say, wow, I actually created that where I never even handled a whisk in the kitchen. And you think, okay, if I could do that, I can better myself the next time. And this is how it's the stepping stone. And this is where they say the failure is a stepping stone to success. So you start small and you just build and build and build. So you start with the first brick and you carry on building from there.
You kind of made my mouth water when you were describing that cake.
Yeah, maybe we should go do some baking.
Awesome. What practical steps can someone take to rebuild confidence and move forward after a major setback?
So, after a major setback, confidence doesn't come back from thinking, it comes back from evidence, it comes back from having proof. So you rebuild confidence by proving to yourself, step by step, that you can move forward again. Pick up the pieces. Like in my first book, Sayors, I say, put on your big girl panties or your big boy pants and deal with the situation. Because if you're not going to deal with it, like I keep referring to my divorce, I had a choice there. I had 2 young children, and if I failed, if I showed that fear, I was very fearful. I had None of my family stood by me. None of my friends saw me as a threat, because now
Oh,
I am single. They didn't. Some of them did not even invite me to their kids' birthday parties, and so you're going to be faced with those type of things. So you need to know how to build yourself up. I could
mm,
have had a choice of wallowing and becoming, like wallowing in regret, in pity, and feeling sorry for myself. But I chose to get up, get dressed, show up, put on my makeup, put on my heels, and be at the office every day. Show up for my kids. Show up that I am resilient. I can go through this. I I had my pity parties. I would cry behind my door, have a good cry, but then, wipe off my tears, dust myself off, and start again. But I did not allow myself to wallow in that pity. Start very small. Set achievable actions for yourself and follow through consistently. Consistency is key. Like you were having a goal for Christmas. You want to be a certain weight, you want to have a six pack, you want to be fit and trim, you want to go on this island vacation. You're not going to do maybe a gym session today and then maybe do one next week Thursday and then two the following week. Consistency is what builds up. So be consistent with your daily deliberate actions and follow through with it. Each completed action becomes proof that you are capable. You're fully capable. Whereas big leaps will feel a bit overwhelming. And after failure, I would not suggest big leaps. So small chunks at a time. But small wins rebuilds that trust, that confidence within you. So it also helps you reconnect with your inner voice and become the observer rather than judge, because sometimes we become too critical and we judge ourselves harshly. So the concept, like in the book of Untethered Soul, is quite strongly emphasized as well. And when you stop believing every negative thought, you create the space, and you to act out of despair or fear. So you prevent that and surround yourself with environments of or in environments or people that reinforce your growth, that don't keep doubting you. Confidence is influenced by what you repeatedly hear, you repeatedly experience. So, and finally, take action before you feel ready. You don't say, when I'm ready. Just go for it.
mm,
And waiting for confidence keeps you stuck. You say, when I'm more confident and I'm feeling more
mm,
confident, then I'll stand up. And just give it like Mandela's saying, it always seems impossible until it's done.
mm.
If you are called to do a speech, go up there. Even if you make a fool of yourself, go ahead and do it and build from there. Action is what rebuilds your confidence, especially coming from fear.
Yeah, I think it comes down to that one shouldn't procrastinate, otherwise it'll delay your. I think it's more of a time delay kind of thing. You're just wasting time, if that makes sense to you.
Correct, absolutely. And a lot of people, I know a lot of my clients, especially like the females, they would say they in their 40s and they say, I don't have a partner, I'm lonely. They were, putting their career first. And then they come and then they realize that, oh, bummer, this is not. What I planned my life out to be. So a lot of people, procrastinate. They say, when I do this or when I'm
Mm,
successful, I look for a partner. And then they realize, hey, I'm already 40. I don't have my skin elasticity anymore. I don't have my youthfulness anymore. And, they grow old, they grow miserable, they grow lonely, and then it becomes like a blame game of either blaming themselves or blaming everybody and everything else. So don't procrastinate.
I agree. Lastly, looking back, how can failure actually become a turning point that leads to success and transformation?
So failure becomes a turning point when you stop seeing it as an ending and start using it as a redirection or a shift. And often it forces honesty with yourself about what isn't working for you, what you've outgrown, or what truly matters. You know, that innate sense to say, okay, I know I've tried this 10 times, it's really not for me. To understand where you are and move on from that. Or, I mean, you know, you've heard about Colonel Saunders, the KFC. He's tried and tried and tried. And at the age of 92, he started up
Wow.
KFC. So there's no, you know, age should not be something that defines you.
Yeah.
Your circumstances should not define you. I mean, there's, if you look on the net, if you look on YouTube, there's so many positive stories where people have come out from slums and have made it big. The I met a very astute businessman that in Dubai. He came from India, and he runs B&W property developers. He's a developer, and he can't even say his name properly in English, but here he is running $1 trillion company.
Wow.
So when I chatted to him, you know, it's like, how did you do it? Because he can't even speak English properly. So his thing was, yes, I know where my faults are. I know where my failures are.
Mm,
He hired people to do certain things for him. So don't
mm.
see things as a setback. See
Yeah.
it as setup for a comeback. So I thought to myself, yes, here's one man, and you can think, okay, no, I can't even speak English, and I'm here, I'm going to be a property developer in Dubai. I don't think so. I know it's not going to work. But what he did, he employed key people,
Mm,
one that could do presentations and articulate themselves and do the presentations of the properties, a proper finance person, a proper marketing person, you name it. He got key people around him. And here, imagine running $1 trillion company. So looking back, failure strips away illusion. It clarifies your strength, it exposes gaps, it builds resilience that you wouldn't otherwise develop, right? So embrace fear. Many breakthroughs come because something didn't work, not in spite of, don't go in spite of it and say, oh, it didn't work, park it. Say, why didn't it work? Go and do better. Learn from that. So every difficult experience pushes us to release old patterns, release old thinking, old attachments. And when you stop resisting what happened, instead of learn from it, experience and transform rather than what defines you, you will see what a better version of yourself you become. And ultimately, failure becomes a turning point when it changes how you think, how you act, and how you see yourself. And that shift is what opens the door to different and often even better, brighter pathways going forward for you.
On that powerful note, thanks so much for your time, Tammy. And as usual, I will take you again next week.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Love and light to all the listeners and the viewers, and we will catch up again next week.
Okay.